We'll start out. Thank you. I'm just going to remind everybody that I appreciate it. Pledge of allegiance. Everybody stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Andrew Melton,
Present.
Dan Osborne,
Present.
Karen McManaway,
Present.
Don Christ is present. Also note that sitting up the table, we have Steve Gorski, our building commissioner, Sean Cerisi, the town attorney, and Kevin Dante, the town manager, is sitting in with the audience.
No numbers on mine.
No, but there's several people on the line.
Okay. All right. Everybody's had a chance to look at our February 20th minutes.
Approve February 20th minutes. I'll second.
Yeah, first and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Minutes have already been handed over to Steve.
Okay. All right. We did have on the agenda for case 2025-B05, and it has been withdrawn. So we'll move on to next case, which is case 2025-B06. Petition been filed by Tim Overmeyer for parcel number. To approve a variance of development for a reduction in setback of 25 feet to 0 feet to allow for an advertising sign on the public right of way. And who is going to present that?
I am. I'm Tim Overmeyer with Venatco Signs, and what we want to do.
I'm sorry.
You mean my address?
Yes, please.
Okay. 16154 Menominee Drive, Plymouth.
If you spell Overmeyer, make sure you get it spelled right.
Vermyer.
Thank you.
You got Menominee? That's the hard one.
Yeah. Go ahead, just make sure I got it. Right.
MENOMINEE.
That's what I got.
Good job. You set? Okay, so what we are proposing for the VFW, I think you'll have a copy of this. As you know, their other sign they took down, which was probably up since before I was born. So we're putting a new sign. We proposed to put a new sign up with a Culver VFW ID sign that will be internally illuminated with LEDs. And then below a changeable electronic message center where they can put community events for their VFW, whatever fish fry or whatever they're having in order to help promote the VFW. And that's programmable. They will control that from inside the facility.
So it's basically where this old siding was.
Yes,
And
a little bit further to the, whatever that would be.
East. And it's not the height is not much different.
Not much difference, no. Okay. We went with 10-foot clearance in order to kids riding bicycles, so those are pretty good. It's nice.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to have your then under the sign from what?
Yes. Oh, yes. So more capabilities. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Big plus on it.
Yeah.
I guess this needs a variance due to the fact it's been moved.
Well, the process is this is going to be on the public right of way. So the town council's already given their permission during the meeting to locate it there. The second step not within the setbacks. So that's variance is just that sign to actually go there. The second step
Access lane closer to the road, or is it just closer to the road?
Can't remember what the other one was. It's in the same basic location. Because it's a little bit longer, it might be about 8 inches closer than the other one was, I think. 8 to 12. It's not on, it doesn't go over the road. It's inside the curbing.
Right,
Yeah.
well, I know, the variances to ask for is
I'm not sure where the property
25
line.
feet to 0 feet, so
Right.
we're talking about 0. But-
we're talking, otherwise we'd go negative.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be in the public right
so
away,
it's
hence,
actually gonna
hence
be
town
over in
council's
public housing,
permission.
Town council permission,
Yes.
and that's been agreed on, or did we have that stipulation?
That was already.
That's already been agreed on,
Okay,
or I should say approved.
everything. Go to public, see if they have anything.
Yeah, motion to open a public hearing.
Oh, okay,
Make a motion that we open the public hearing on this.
all first,
You gotta get a second.
okay. So you were doing second? Or wait a second.
He did a second.
You did a second?
Yeah.
Okay, just trying to understand what's going on here. All right. Nobody have any more discussion? All in favor? I think not, for the approval of this variance.
All in favor for the open
okay.
public hearing.
I'm not letting that kind of hurt with this done. All right, for public, if anybody has anything
You have to have for the vote.
before we go to public,
You need a vote to open the public hearing. Dave, you got a first and second?
You didn't vote. We
will
didn't.
you vote?
Yeah.
All right. All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay, the meeting is open now to the public. Anybody has any questions, concerns? For the sign being put up? Anybody online?
I see nothing.
No other discussion?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Got first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, we'll go to the finding of facts. So with this, there are 3 things that we look at. First, one is general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. But agree or disagree, and I want to remind all members, we disagree on any of these. Second is adjacent property. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Agree or disagree? Third one is practical difficulty. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. Agree or disagree? We'll take this to a vote unless you want to public, they know what. Got it.
You can just vote on
Okay. So we'll entertain a motion to approve this variance. Zero setback.
I'll make a motion. We approve the variance from 25-foot setback to 0-foot setback. And allow for an advertising sign for public road.
Second.
First and second. All of them agree, so yes. Approve.
Yes.
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 Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Now you go celebrate.
Everybody's got to do it for you. Clear it out. Shut my name here. Next case, next case, case number 2025-B07. Petition has been filed by Lou Burgess for parcel number 502-127-00177-003013 on South Shore Drive, Lot 2B, Burns, Oostbahn, South Shore Drive replat. To approve a variance development for a reduction in setback of the west side yard setback from required 37.6 feet with the 20% lot width to 10 feet, and requesting south rear yard setback from the required 25 feet to 10 feet to construct a new house.
I'm Chris New, attorney for Lou. I also have with me tonight current property owner representative and our surveyor. And I also have some additional information for you.
Could you give me your name again, please?
Yeah, Christopher Newsbaum. I actually have everything on it you need.
Okay, thanks.
So we brought along as part of the support, just for clarity and actually understanding the proposal in front of you, both some renderings of the anticipated structure to be placed on the property. Seeing that this is a property that would be in like and kind character for the neighborhood surrounding, really adding to the visual benefit to the area. We've got, for your ability to look at on page 3 is the current plat with the proposed setbacks drawn and the location of the proposed location of the home on the property. And then just that blown up a little bit further so you can see it in better detail. There is I would draw your attention to, and I won't necessarily need to read you our application, you have that, but I would like to call out some particular not issues, but some matters with regard to just the uniqueness of this property. And so you can see, that one of the biggest questions in any variance is whether a strict application is going to be, makes sense, and whether or not a variance should be applied. You can see that with the unique shape of the property, if it's measured at its greatest distance, which, going from the western boundary all the way to the eastern boundary, we just aired on the sides of the largest size of the lot width that you could potentially say being 188.13 feet. That means that the side yard setbacks would need to be in total 37.6 feet, with neither side being less than 10 feet. You can distribute that however you want, just as long as nothing's less than 10 feet. And so if we were to put that on the western boundary, we'd have sufficient space to have an eastern boundary of 10 feet. We have more than that, 25 feet, even if you go from where it kind of bottlenecks. Then it kind of gets into a question of where's the front yard, where's the backyard sort of situation. So you can kind of see that strict application of the statute of the ordinance is not only just difficult to ascertain, it ends up with a lot of different lines on there. And so we thought the best way to approach this was to come before the board and ask for a variance to set those setbacks appropriately at, I believe, at 10 feet, which creates a buildable area there on the wider portion of the lot. And if you continue flipping through, you can see the renderings of the plan for the house. So Mr. Bucas has put, is serious about putting a structure that'll add to the tax base of the county and to the surrounding area, and utilizing this property so that there's appropriate infill to the vacant lots that are here around the lake. Living by 17 is great to look at, but it is kind of unwieldy. It's a replat of 2 lots. I don't know if you can go back to 2 pages, Steve. Maybe 3. Yeah, one more.
Let's break it down.
I think that's the blown up one. Yeah, so it still needs to go up one more.
There we go.
Yeah, right there. So you can see immediately to the west of the flag portion of, or the pole portion or key portion, whatever you want to call it, of the lot. This was immediately to the west right there where Steve's got the cursor is lot 1A. The area bolded is lot 2B. And I don't recall the immediate date, but when this was replatted, standing in this room, what's your Burns with a Eric Burns, stood here and went through just, what they were working to do. And at that time, this board, I understand not all of you were present at that time, had the conversation about, what does this do? What's the effect? What's the intent of the replat? And the intent being to create 1 non-buildable lot and 1 buildable lot. And so because it's not clear in the application of those setback standards exactly where the front yard would be, the backyard, the side yard, it's sort of a through lot to some extent. But the lakefront standards don't actually consider there being through lots. Why would they? Because if you got a lot on a road on one side and a road on the other, where's the lake? So we have this unique situation where we actually have one of those. And so that's where, I think really the result is, to permit the construction of a structure that's consistent in size and aesthetic with the surrounding neighborhood and uphold the entire appearance within the neighborhood. One other comment I'd make for you. And I think one of the other things to call is that approval of this is not going to diminish the area. There are setbacks along South Shore Drive that currently exist lakefront that have smaller setbacks in the area. I know that doesn't necessarily create precedence, but it does go to whether or not this is an appropriate thing to do within this neighborhood, and the existence of those in the area already go to whether or not this is the sort of kind and character of variance that would make sense in this area. And so with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, we do have our surveyor here. I understand that there are some remonstrators here. I think that their concerns that have been expressed are valid. They're things to be concerned about, but I don't believe that they're actually a proper concern for this board. There are things that would be addressed during the construction process. Sight lines, Indiana, that there isn't an easement for sight lines. We don't have anybody directly behind us that would be impinged by the sight lines. The public doesn't necessarily have a right to view the space through South Shore Drive. So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. And once the remonstrators have finished, we'd be happy to have our rebuttal. Thank you.
Questions? Can you look back time that this was separated or replatted
Well, it was separated by the plan commission.
and when that was, are the same owners still on that subdivision? Anybody answer that question?
Craig Osterbein.
Do you want to open up for like public comment?
Yeah, probably that'd be better to do it that way. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We'll do that. I would just kind of get into the question, but we're gonna go through more conversation. I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move, that's complicated. Second.
Hold on a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing. Now,
Yes.
Greg Osterbond,
Greg,
Greg, Greg. We are, my brother is here with me. We and a sister are owners of, I think it's lot 2A he referred to, which is adjacent to the west portion of it. It was, I think the replat was done in 91. We agreed to it. The issue we're here for, and if it's appropriate to bring up now, I believe everybody has in front of them, objection by Tom Downey that was mailed in, and he has significant exhibits that came with it. It deals with the parking issue because we have parking that's been associated with this property since 90, since it was first purchased through a court order in 2006, and it's right along the roadway. And Mr. Downey's objection is to the crowding that will take place from parking cars there once you put a house. I mean, we're obviously the parkers. But we use the property for lake access. So I'm kind of here to answer questions that you have about the park.
no, we have no questions really about parking.
Okay. If you have
I
documents
think you
that you
can
provide it.
I mean, they're all on, you didn't say it, but they're 3-minute time limit for each one. Then you can address that after the hearing.
All right, thank you. Okay. Yeah, and everybody wants to talk. I mean, you gotta hold this to a 3-minute, whatever you have the concerns, whatever. Everybody gets you speak. Okay, your name and address, please.
I'm Mike Kelly at 685 South Shore Drive.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Mike Kelly at 685 South Shore Drive. My question is this house, where does this house point to?
Where is it pointed to? We're looking.
Pointing east.
So I think that's just for comments now. I don't know if I get in discussion.
Yeah.
Just let them have their comments.
Yeah, I mean, if you have questions, I won't be able to answer your questions because that's what we're trying to get information.
I can answer that. Yeah, like
Where's our access?
this is the side that faces South Shore Drive. Yep. So the garage will be at the western edge of it at the back.
And then these questions will be asked later too. So.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sorry about that.
It probably would be helpful if, you go up there and
I think it's one at a time right now
Yeah,
for
one
the
at a
public
time, what we're
comment.
gonna have to have.
So it's just for people to speak.
Right.
So is that gentleman done? Is he finished?
Yeah. we'll be done.
Sir, are you done? Are you done with your comments?
said no questions, right?
Well, I think the intent was maybe that the petitioner's counsel, once he's heard all the concerns from the folks in the room, then he'll address those, and then perhaps, the board will indulge a brief second round of things if you haven't been satisfied with the answers. So if we can just kind of go through and get all the concerns out there, and then we'll come back.
My question is, we were supposed to get through our access, because we're across the road. And we were, Bob Tanger was the developer. We bought this property 3.5 years ago. And where are we supposed to go to get through?
Does it affect our access onto our lot? And our view is kind of impinged because we're directly across the road.
So if we start a second person, I need to reset the clock.
Okay,
So it's one at a time.
yeah,
Okay, we're not
Yeah.
familiar with the format.
all right. I mean, I understand your concerns anyway. Thank you, Will. Anybody else?
I think it would be helpful too, if
Name,
Brandt Ostervon,
have you already spoke?
Okay.
if it was explained to us where the parking is gonna take place with with the new house there. Okay, it's fine to have 10 feet on each side, if that makes the variance regulations, but where are they gonna park and where are they gonna enter a
I
house?
appreciate that concern.
So that's our main.
Right, but I know this committee here, the board, we will look at that as we.
Okay, I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
our
you.
main question and comment, whatever you want to call it.
Anybody? Anybody else?
Yeah, one of our neighbors couldn't make it and sent a letter. Are they gonna be-
Can we have a name?
Liz Kelly, 685 West Shore Drive or South Shore Drive. Are they gonna read the letters into the minutes too?
You presented,
I've received 2 letters prior to the meeting that I'll read.
Okay,
Our legal notice said they need to be received, the letters prior to the meeting.
okay.
Did I use my 3 minutes or?
probably. Yeah, and there'll be a chance to get something else later, so. All right, anybody else? Anybody online?
Don't see anybody online with a comment.
My name is Kevin Burns. I represent, not a representative capacity, but I'm one of the sellers of the property. My family owns the adjacent lot, the Burns lot to that just they got a new house put up on that. They are Burns family.
What is your address, please?
So my address would be on this lake, this property.
What is your address?
Personal address,
The address of the house that you're
Living.
Your personal address, yes, please.
my personal address is in Indianapolis. It's in 6520
6520.
Castle Knoll Court. Yeah, this Indiana.
You say you own the property
I'm one of the forerunners of the
of this parcel?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes, and I've spoken with my uncle about this property, and he came before this board to actually, get the property split so that, his family could, kind of take ownership of that, build their house, and we could have this place that would be a buildable lot as well. And I've spoken with him, and his property is really the only one that's the variances would sort of say impinge on, and he said he's fine with this. And it's what he's expected, and he's raised no objections with myself or my family. He's supportive of it. He's not here today because his daughter's getting married on Saturday, so he's got more important things to do tonight. But anyway, I just wanted to voice my support just on behalf of our family, and I can answer any questions if they come up.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? If not,
Make a motion to close the public hearing. I'll second.
yeah, first and second, all members in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, so what I'm getting from this start with is you own it. And
Purchasing it. Yep, under contract to purchase.
you're contract to purchase it,
Yep.
so you want the variance before you buy it, or?
Correct.
So you're not the owner yet?
No, we have the right to purchase it, and we have the consent of the owner to make the variance application.
Is it based on the variances? Is it based on whether you get the variances or not, whether you purchase it or not?
Yes. As any general purchase agreement would be, subject to local government approvals for the intended use.
Anybody else have anything?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess my first question is, I know it's an L1 lot, but is the front yard actually the northern side of the parcel?
I think
that's a good question, and what Mr. Nussbaum said, I think is it poses a tough interpretation case, and I think it's a little bit unclear in my mind. That's Steve.
Yeah.
I think, man, I think that's really why we're here. Because the way the ordinance is written, there's nothing wrong with the way the ordinance is written. You can't contemplate every single lot ever. But the way that it is written, I think a strict interpretation of the front yard would mean that the front yard is actually not right now in the picture that's shown. The front yard's up at the lake, and the setback would actually be more than the 25 feet, because the high water mark is about halfway up, right in that area where so the front yard setback would be there, and then we really wouldn't have any issues with regard to any of the other setbacks, but we'd rather have a clear understanding from the BZA that these are the setbacks, these are what we expect that you'll be doing, rather than go out there, put a structure up, and then get a stop work order up.
I guess my second question before we get to the parking thing is, you're asking for a 10-foot west side yard setback, but the proposed house is at 25 feet.
Yeah, we would be open to that being right on the property line with the 20 foot, or not on the property line, right on the structure line with it being 25 feet. My only thought was, because the person that is to the west has no objection whatsoever to that being 10 feet, it would allow for just a slight bit of, if there's conditions that mean that the property should really move, 5 feet west, we don't have to come back here and ask again. But if that is a concern of the board, we would be open to a table modification for it to be at the 25 feet.
You were saying that you would be, the front yard would be toward South Shore Drive, toward Lake, or
Yeah, up next to the front yard setback would be based on the way that it's written within the L1, says that it's the front yard is the line which touches the lake. For lakefront property, and this is lakefront property.
I have a problem with being lakefront, and you just got an access at the same time, like what you were talking about before. It doesn't, too, so it does make a
Well, it's not,
situation, but
yeah, it's not access. It's legal ownership to the lake. It's not a
I'm talking
easement.
about personal access. So it's personal access to the owner of the property. Right here, you've got personal access to it. That's all I'm
Yes,
saying.
yeah.
So as far as your front yard setback, then right now you're looking at
And again, because of
25 feet here.
yeah, and I think just given the complexity with the actual lot shape, that rather than trying to refer to that, I know in the application we had essentially the front and the back and the western, but that's why the pictorial representation of the setbacks are shown on the drawing. And so if there would be, I think we could state that if there was a desire for the board to have the westerly setbacks be 25 feet, we could, state that the 70.62 foot western boundary line will have a setback of 25 feet, and the other setbacks will be as otherwise depicted on the plat. Because again, yeah, like you just noted, trying to say what's the front yard and the backyard and the side yard is quite difficult with the little arrowhead that we've got there.
Yeah, I just wonder, you got a road on the front and a road on the back.
True, right, and L1 doesn't contemplate through lots. There's no through lot standards within L1.
through,
Yeah, so in other zoning classifications, there are specific setback requirements for through lots, meaning a lot that has frontage on two streets.
does RL1 have it? I mean, we've got
We have a definition for frontage.
for the front.
So there's frontage on two streets. The front door, wherever the front door of the house is
Is the front.
the front, and that designate where your side yards are in the rear yard.
And if back, if the rear yard is on the road, it would still require,
The front, yes, yes,
still require 25 feet.
correct.
Um,
Both frontages, under our definition of frontage, and this came up on multiple cases, when a house has got two frontages, the front yard setback is gonna be the 25 feet. On either,
Which is
on both
25
sides.
feet is gonna be center of the house.
So L1 does not actually have that definition as I read the ordinance. It says that the front yard for a lot that has lake frontage is from the high water mark of the lake,
25 feet behind.
25 feet behind. So we'd go from the portion up top and come 25 feet back.
Right.
Because that is a lakefront lot. And so you would have, and then again, there's just no contemplation of really what to do with the two streets. And so, I mean, that's why we're here for a variance, because it's, you can argue it a million different ways. So it's better to set it in stone.
Okay.
I comment, we have a definition for frontage in our zoning ordinances.
And I have no problem.
And it would be whatever it's, and it can have more than one frontage.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying here though, I mean, if it's on a street, a road, in any of our districts, right? If I'm wrong, if it's whether it be side yard or a rear yard on a through road here, just like South Shore Drive is here, you would require 25-foot setbacks off that road.
I agree, again,
Regardless. whether
L1,
rear or.
yeah, but there are different standards for in other districts in other zoning districts that have our through lot, and those are reduced because of the fact that you've got two different frontages. And so but here we don't, which is, not really the intent of, it shouldn't be a burden on the parcel here when it's not a burden on the parcel in other districts is our thought. Yeah.
It is a burden on the other parcels in other districts.
So the thing is, if we do the 25 feet from both roads, it's a non-buildable lot.
Yeah.
No. That's a problem.
Right. That's why we're here asking for a variance. Yeah.
So what exactly is the hardship then? What is your hardship?
I mean, the hardship, I think, is that there's two things. One is that the Plan Commission approved this as a buildable lot. If you go back and you review the meeting minutes and the discussion and the record there, the intent with the replat was for this to be a buildable lot. But I think they neglected to address at that time. And when they approved it, I mean, it should have been probably a replat with a development plan that showed here's what we're doing at that time, so that there was a clear understanding that was done. That wasn't. And so I think the reality is that while the Plan Commission approved a buildable lot for this property, the ending result of that action did not accomplish their goal.
But you're looking at what the Plan Commission did, but it was under the request, correct, of this replat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what the owner did for the replat is what they requested, so they created this lot to be the way it is.
True.
Okay, I just don't want
Yeah.
pointing toward just the board, because I mean, what was done was in 91.
Right.
And ordinances have changed since
Exactly, yeah.
And that, I guess that's my next question. What ordinances were back then that could have been changed that would affect?
I think it's much sooner than 1991, because I was able to watch the video of it
Yeah,
when it was done, so I'm thinking in
I think it was actually
2020, 21.
2022. Yeah, it wasn't, there was another plat that was prior to this that happened in 91.
Well, we said 91 and you're saying
22.
What was, I'm sorry, what was done in 2022? I'm sorry.
It
It was a public-
divided, that strip that was to the west. of the
Very
property.
public comments.
Oh, yeah, right. I guess everybody else probably gonna know that too, because I mean, that's what the whole issue is over. But it was replatted with the other parcels as one property before.
I'm sorry. You were on the planning commission.
Barry, you open it up. Barry, if you let him speak, you have to open it up for the whole
Yeah,
room.
I told you. I was. They probably know I was on that, but I don't recall what this was. But I mean, I could explain a whole lot that went on in that meeting just from partial memories, but you have a video of that meeting, am I correct? So it's public. Should be accessed.
This is a copy of the replat, if it helps.
I don't read it. It's up there.
On Beacon, what would be the reason for a 60% reduction in, guess, inflation percentage? Why would that be? Looks like a 60% discount basically for tax purposes. Maybe I'm reading this wrong.
No, you're reading it for non-buildable.
Reading is non-buildable.
So,
Yeah.
But I mean, those are just standards that the assessor's office
Right.
applies, not,
Lakefront is not. That's what it is. That's the same thing.
we haven't talked about the parking yet, but there are legal documents, correct, that show that basically that north side, a portion of that 10-foot setback is legally given for cars to park. Is that
Three
correct?
cars, it was right, definition for 3 cars to park.
it's a license to park there. It's not, I mean, they have to be able to park there, but it's not like, fully reserved. But I did I don't know if you saw this, it was my crude little drawing of I just scanned at the same level of zoomed out of the BIS, like a few blocks over, and cut out a couple of cars or 3 cars and then kind of
You have that in the
superimposed them on there. But it looks like cars could, park along the street there still with, with the 10-foot space, I would imagine, but
But there's no, at this current time, there's no ask for a reduction in the north side setback, correct?
Not on, sorry, it's not,
Because
it's part of
I'm
the
going to say the assumption of the petitioner is that the north side is from the 25 foot from the high water mark, not because of the street.
Yes and no. We are asking for the variance to show the setbacks as depicted on the diagram, just because again, there is a question on, where's the front yard.
where the water has no.
But if we're saying that that's just, side yards, 25 foot, then yes, we're asking for it to be 10 foot along, the 73 or the 86.79 foot, the 40.6 along the South Side Drive, and then again back at Shore Drive, that small portion that's touching there, which the pavement is considerably further away from that actual property line.
Mr. Building Commissioner, does this really qualify? I mean, as far as right now, it's zoned L1. And if it was not zoned L1 and S1 or whatever it was, a rezoned, would that lessen the complications?
No, not this, not because it's very irregular and it's very complicated.
And that's the only reason I was looking for that, because it does seem to be pretty complicated here for Mr. Nelson, did you have anything else to add on that? You're talking about? I'm sure you did.
It's very confusing. It's very confusing.
So Mr. Nussbaum, I don't, you heard the questions that the folks in the audience have. Do you feel like, I don't know, if you've answered all those, or if you could?
And I know there's two letters. I didn't know when you wanted to read those, if I was gonna respond to them.
You probably were gonna read those.
I can read those right now.
Yeah, and then I can respond to that and all the other questions.
Well.
First, I can make sure I have them in order. First letter dated March 11th of 25 to addressed to the town of Culver, BZA. Subject, objections to variance petition for parcel 502-127-000-177-003013, lot 2B, Burns, Osterbahn, South Shore Drive replat. Dear members of the Culver Board of Zoning Appeals, we appreciate the opportunity to present our views to the town of Culver Board of Zoning Appeals regarding the requested variances to develop and build on parcel 502-127-000-177-003013, lot 2B, Burns Ostervan South Shore Drive replat. We are writing to formally express our strong objection to the variance petition submitted for the aforementioned parcel. In our opinion, we will be adversely affected by the proposed development of the parcel. The following is a list of our primary objections with a brief description of each subject. First bullet point, we are concerned about how the lot will be graded and how rainfall from such a large structure will be properly dispersed such that neighboring properties are not adversely impacted in an area already prone to flooding. Increased flooding will directly impact egress and ingress to lakefront water access. We understand a soil test was completed, but our concerns move beyond soil composition. Next bullet point. We expect a negative impact on the value of our property if the proposed building is constructed. The size of the proposed building will virtually fill the entire lot on which it is so to be situated, thus impeding upon seasonal lake views of multiple surrounding properties. Next bullet point. We take issue with the circumstance with which the lot came into existence. This lot is a replat from one parcel that was typical in size for the area into two smaller parcels that satisfied minimum requirements to do so. We fear allowing this behavior to continue will set a dangerous precedent for future development that could lead to negating funneling laws and have a significant environmental impact upon the lake with increased use. With support of the objections listed above, we must urge you to deny this application to uphold the integrity of our community zoning regulations. We believe those entrusted with planning for the future of Culver and Lake Maxinkuckee must decide what precedent they wish to set as we move forward in this phase of the growth of our community. Continued construction of such large lots, continued construction of such large residences on small lots on the waterfront and elsewhere will ultimately alter the overall character and charm of our community. We must support development plans consistent with necessary building codes, but also align with preserving the character of our historic small town and its unique ambiance. Thank you for your consideration of our concerns. Sincerely yours, Warren Kurt Reese Jr. and Danielle M. Reese.
And all of us here.
At 20190 Sycamore Road, Culver, Indiana, 46563.
What's the address again?
20190 Sycamore Road. The next letter to the town of Culver. Subject is Board of Zoning Appeals petition number, local case number 2025-B07 with a hearing with today's date. Thank you for your work you do to help keep our community looking sharp and desirable for our residents. Your work is important. My wife and I own a home at 616 South Shore Drive across the roadway from the property seeking setback variances. We strongly believe this petition should be denied for safety reasons. As you know, there are several lake access only parcels to the east of our home, and the subject property parcel 502-127-000-177-003-013. And the roadway ends approximately at the east property line. There's no parking lot other than the area my family and the George family created along the roadway within the George's south property border many years ago. The space is always filled with vehicles from both our families. As other families come to enjoy their lake access parcels, cars and golf carts pile up at the end of the roadway. No one really knows if this is legal or not. The roadway doesn't seem to be managed by the county, and the GIA website calls for the road's South Side Drive, yet our address is South Shore Drive. As the space gets congested, it becomes unsafe. Kids and dogs are running around everywhere, which is great to see. However, we've witnessed the tragic event of a dog being run over and killed, as well as several near misses involving children. We've had our fence hit a few times as well. In our minds, adding a home on this lot will increase the risk of bodily harm to the families and guests of the current home and lake access owners. Additionally, we believe this roadway needs defined. If it's a private drive only as the sign on the west end indicates, then what does this mean? Do the property owners along the roadway have a say in what development occurs off the roadway? Can cars and golf carts park anywhere they want? As we stated in this letter, our primary objection is driven by our concern for the safety of our family and the residents and their guests who enjoy lake access to our east. In addition to this primary concern, we believe the parcel is not suitable for a home, and forcing one to fit on the lot will diminish the property values of the homes along the roadway. We pay a healthy property tax bill every year to help provide resources to our community government to keep us safe and preserve the value and experience provided by Lake Maxinkuckee. As you know, setback formulas are created to help ensure property size structures are built on property-sized parcels. This situation is a good example of why that makes sense. Thank you for listening. Tom and Carol Downey, and I don't have address, just a phone number on here that I won't read out loud.
Sean, you want me to? Yeah. So before responding to all the commentary, one thing I did want to know from the replat, and whether or not this was, essentially the injury was created by us. This is actually a prior non-conforming use or not use, but a prior non-conforming lot as regard to the area that we're looking at right now. Changing the into two lots that had been historically owned by two families that used it and accessed it didn't change issues that pre-existed. I believe the zoning ordinance that happened here in the back, which is the 25-foot setbacks with regard to South Shore Drive and South Back Drive. So even though there's, the frontage is there, and I believe that's where the conversation stemmed from, the approval from the Plan Commission, because this wasn't creating another buildable lot. It's one buildable lot. And I think that reference was to the fact that this lot in the back here existed prior to the time when the zoning ordinance created those setbacks. And had a house been built here, it would have been able to stay there, and you could have chopped that one side off still and allowed the access because it had that joint ownership. And then with regard to some of the comments, one of the comments regarding rainfall and disparately impacting the area with regard to flooding. There's no coverage issue. We're not asking for any variance with regard to coverage on the property. We're not creating impervious surfaces greater than are allowed with respect to the size of the property. and the impervious surfaces that are proposed there. So we're not doing anything that a lot of a similar size would not have the ability to do. So I understand the concern, but that's more of a construction and building permit concern that will be addressed during that period. With regard to negative impact on value of properties, I think that having a vacant lot, and that doesn't have a property on it is probably the wrong argument. That a property with a lot on it tends to rise all property values because you don't have this vacant lot here. Approving of a variance, that's not precedent. And then I think shifting to the parking, and there's I think a lot of questions about parking. There's 25 feet to the west that, to the extent that there's cars that wouldn't already fit in the driveway and already fit in quite a large garage that in the renderings you can see goes all the way back. It's the entire width of that 20 foot, and it goes all the way to the back too, right? It's large. I mean, you could 6-car garage. Yeah.
Could you point to where the garage is gonna be?
I can, but do you have a laser pointer?
I don't know if you can see my cursor. That's where the garage is, correct?
Yeah, it's 35 feet deep, 20 feet wide.
So it's in this area here.
Yeah, all the way to the back. And all that area to the west will be open and available for additional parking.
So this would be the parking here.
And you have a drive coming off of
Coming relatively where the 19.6 indicator is. Yep.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but I have trouble understanding how 700 square feet could be a 6-car garage. If it's 20 foot wide and 35 foot 7 inches long, I don't know how you can put
exactly
6 cars in there. If an average car is 15 feet, that's 45 feet.
Okay.
A small car would be
so
13 feet.
Yeah, four car garage.
So 4-car garage.
It's not down.
But I mean, we are not creating any parking issues with regard to the variance is not, we don't have like a stacking problem. We're not going to drive through or any of that sort of issues. I think with regard to some of the comments from other access, and I don't know, Steve, if you can go to one that just shows the larger area, and I think it's up 2 pages.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
You want this one here?
no, keep going. Yeah. So the only quote unquote access lot that really should be coming down South Shore Drive is the one immediately that is lot 2 or lot 1A, which is the small lot right there. Anybody else that has lots to the east, their access is from South Shore Drive. I don't know that there's if people want to be neighborly and allow people to cross over that way. But, to the extent that it's happening, it sounds like it might be a trespass. There's access off right of way for these, other access lots that they can come off of South Shore Drive. I think that's the only way they can exist, because otherwise they don't. If there wasn't that right of way there, they would be landlocked, and there would need to be a easement. Yeah. So I think that's more of a, it's a public right of way. Cars can, park along a public right of way. And that is what it is. But this lot will not create a further parking issue.
Well, it won't if you put 4 cars in the garage.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. We have to close the public hearing. We close the public hearing. Sorry.
So the L1 district shows a minimum lot frontage of 50. Okay, so
Which it was previous to this being subdivided off.
but now that it is not, it says for the few L1 zone parcels without that frontage, the front yard is the street side and the rear yard is the opposite street side. Okay. The north side, the front.
I'm not looking at it either.
Mhm.
I didn't catch it either.
He's saying that there's a 25-foot setback off the north side of that, of South Shore Drive.
Because they don't have,
They don't have 50 feet of frontage, so it can't be considered front. So
So-
it makes this is an ongoing
Public
lot.
comments closed now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I, you know,
Trying to get that part about.
I understand what you said about when they came in front of the planning commission to split it, but I don't recollect this actually like Barry, but we don't guarantee or say you come in to split it. We don't determine square footage or anything like that. And I would be interested into knowing what actually that conversation was. I'm sorry, this is very confusing and, I don't see how you can build a house of this size on this lot. Unless it was built before. Unless there was a foundation there, I don't think it's a buildable lot. That's my opinion.
And I'm sure it's not, we don't have a impervious, pervious relationship on record anywhere. But I'm just wondering if it was including that strip all the way as far as.
It would by ordinance, it would.
Because I think that creates a different issue too, as far as complicated when you're talking about a house being built in this area right here, and you've got houses on both sides, three sides, whatever, the road, and that access there, because you're expecting that strip there to absorb any extra water that doesn't apply to the actual lot with the house. That's what I'm saying. You almost have to have, depending on what the figures are as far as calculations on per tempo. Excuse me back there. Anybody understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, you're saying that the hard surfaces are all clustered back here.
Clustered back here, and you're gonna expect that strip going to the lake to absorb.
Right.
To make up for the impervious. Obviously, a lot like that, never considered according to that either, but.
Hold on, can you hang on a second? I might have lost the link here.
Okay.
Kind of looks something went wrong, trying to get back into the meeting. Let me just go back into it again. Happened. For anybody that was online, we had a little technical difficulty. We stopped the meeting, but we can start back now.
All right. Mr. Osborne, you say you're-
I'm finished.
All right, I just want to bring up one thing too. We're looking at variances for this property to be built on. And if we allow this variance on this property, before it's built, I mean, it's gonna be permanent. So if they sell that property, anybody else can build the same size house with the same variances, and they don't go away. I don't want to be on part of the board that would set a precedent where anyway, this is, having any issues with other properties or like, whichever way you want to look at it.
Well, whatever I mean, I know people practically talk about precedent, but really every case you consider is
Right, and I know,
unique
I know.
based on the circumstances.
and I
but, yeah.
understand, too, and I announce that too, as far as saying it is.
Yeah.
It's as unique as it is, it's still, it's its own unity right here, entity. So, but a variance still is forever.
I mean, if we're considering the north boundary of this arrowhead shaped thing to be the front yard, I don't think that the petition even requests a reduction of that setback.
It does, we request the setbacks as included in the plan that we submitted. So it's the pictorial representation, again, just because it is very difficult to define and everybody come to a agreement on what's the front yard, what's the backyard, what's the side yard. And so I think
I know that it's depicted here, but it's not,
in.
at least to what I see, not written in the petition.
If not a request to variance.
Right.
it is, it's as shown on the plan. It's with the language in our,
And you got the actual
The actual,
request for the variance.
it's right on your agenda.
Everything's on this agenda. And the only thing it's got is west side yard setback. And the south-
So
south side.
even so, considering this, a 10-foot frontage here. But from what I've heard from this board is you all feel that that's front yard and it's 25 feet. That's what I've heard from.
so our request as put in the description and detail your requested variance. Reduction in the setback of the westerly facing property line, which is 25 feet. The northerly facing property lines and the southerly facing property lines.
Those all three would have to be addressed, yes.
Yeah, and we're requesting them all to be reduced to 10 feet. So
It's not in your petition, that's what you're talking about, for it on record, it would have to be. We can't just keep adding variances to what you're equipped. I mean, I'm not.
I'm not, this is what we submitted.
Yeah.
No, I think that, I mean, if you were inclined to grant it, I think they've asked for those three sides. I think
Okay.
that's,
so
it's on the table if
Okay.
you wanted to
right.
consider it, but. If,
okay, so what is listed here on our agenda, is that correct in what they're asking for?
But it's taken from the legal notice. But it's,
But if we want to
Well, I mean,
grant a variance, it can be recorded as a grant by the board, because look at here. The same,
I'm just saying that they've asked for a variance to those measurements on those three sides, and that's in the request. So I think you're within your
okay, I don't want to do.
rights if you want to grant the relief they've asked for.
so just so I understand correctly, what is listed here is not the complete request as applied for. This shows for a west side yard setback from required 37.6 feet to 10 feet. And a south rear yard setback from 25 feet to 10 feet. That's what it shows.
Let's see what I had.
And on the finding of fact,
Thought that I-
because the same thing.
I had read in north in stuff I had in emails, what he had just read, but what's the source of what you just read there?
It's what was submitted in the variance application online.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a thought that it was noticed improperly and, would want it to be,
Yeah, if that was in the application and it wasn't published for the north variance, then we'd need to continue this or I guess we'd close the public hearing, re-notice it. If there's, and I mean, that's assuming if you're of the opinion that you wouldn't want to grant it, even if it was properly noticed, then, it's not worth the time to do that. But, so do you have, I know I've seen north somewhere. Do you have the actual,
Do you want to see the actual
Final-
application?
yeah.
I can put the application on here. Since I can't see it, tell me when I'm at Culver Plan.
Right,
Is that one Culver Plan?
no, that's a plan commission, up right there.
Not counting Culver.
Culver Board of Zoning Appeal variances.
Yeah.
Right there.
it's the third one.
Right there.
Right there's the description.
That's not what I submitted. I copied and pasted directly from a Word document.
So does it? Would we re-advertised or do
It
they
would
have
have
the
to be-
discretion to?
no, it'd have to be re-advertised because that north side of it wasn't provided notice then, but
They would have gotten notice because they were within the buffer, but
They may have gotten
Right,
notice,
but
but there's no mention of north
yeah,
side there.
that might have been a concern of theirs and they said, oh, I'm not gonna go because it's not
sure.
a north issue, but
So it appears that there's some error between your cut and paste when you submitted and what is actually received.
No, I do, and by no means, Steve, but I submitted it. And the discussion was, based on what we requested, there was an interpretation of what we were.
I could go back to our conversations too. I'm
Yeah.
sure this is what was agreed on when we discussed it. I might have that in email, but regardless of that, if you wanted to read, I mean, it's up to what y'all want.
I mean,
to do.
it really was
Or
that
we
we
do
understood,
it.
that we needed a variance as depicted. We submitted that and, planning staff's completely within their realm to say what that request was. So
What I'm understanding then at this time, as far as for this committee, we could either approve or deny the two that is on our agenda. And then we'd have to come back for another one for the front. Or else wait, come back with all three. Is that the only option we're seeing here?
to the extent that
It depends on the comments.
yeah, I was to the extent we're going with, is that in the L1 standard that it said that there's not 50 feet of lake frontage, then you,
Doesn't state that specifically.
Okay.
L1 standard is minimum lot frontage of 50 feet. Then up in the top of the description of the lake district L1.
but by
Without that
yeah, okay,
frontage, the front yard is the street side.
okay. So I think, I know that I dug into this. I think that presents the quandary that we were talking about at the beginning of how do you really determine where that front is, and if you're taking it as this existed before that standard was, this lot shape was there before that standard was put in place, and do you count the 25 feet from the lake? And if that's the case, then they didn't need relief from the north side, and they're within that.
So-
yeah.
And I would add,
Yeah.
if that's frontage there, I could say they can have 10 feet, and you can just consider the other two as building commissioner, just because it aligns with the house next door, which is even
Yeah.
closer to the road, the house to the west. So I can say, as building commissioner, you can have 10 feet, and you can make your decision. I'll do that. And say, just grant that 10 feet, which is in the ordinance, so it lines with the house next door, and then you can vote on the other two.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I think talking that out,
I know,
I think you're free to make a decision, whatever you want.
right, I mean, the way I
Yeah.
look at it, 25 feet setback from the lake wouldn't or even apply to this house because the house is not gonna be put,
Well, right.
it's where it's placed is what the 25 feet.
I'm just reading this and showing a 50-foot minimum frontage.
Right.
So they wouldn't have, that was why the plan commission is granted a variance essentially by allowing it to be platted that way. Because it didn't match the development standards. You know, if you.
It's 50 feet prior.
Right, and they didn't, but so it's not a, your lot's not, it's not a, your lot's not buildable if you have 50 feet. It's, you shall not create a lot with less than 50 feet. And so to do so, that when they went to the plan commission, they were asking for an exception from the development standards. And they granted it by allowing it to be less than
Well, there
50 feet.
are other plots that have less than 50 feet.
Right, and they're prior non-conforming uses, but this one was just not, they allowed an exception from the development standards.
10 feet I can grant, assuming you agree that that's frontage on South Side Drive.
And I
As
think
long
that,
as long as that's what you all think the frontage is.
and this is where why we've come here. I mean, we would, our argument, our belief would be that it's lake frontage, setbacks from the high water mark of the lake. That, if they're assuming that, as Steve said, that on the South Shore Drive setback can be 10 feet, we would simply need, and again, we would be fine with the west setback being 25 feet. So really the only thing in that scenario that we would be asking for and wanting is a reduction in the backyard setback to 25 feet.
When you say backyard,
South Side Drive.
south side of the,
Yeah.
and don't say South Shore because there's two South Shores.
There's two, yeah.
There's a South Side Drive and a
South side.
South Shore Drive.
A reduction in the,
This is actually South Side Drive.
Yeah, south side of the proposed construction.
right, so there's two, well, and one of them already is 10. Along here, along the 111.88 feet, I think that's good. I'd say that's a side yard. It joins the property neighboring to it. And so it would be this 27.5 foot track or line and a 10-foot track. The 25 feet that are actually going, the 25-foot setback created by those two lines there, we would ask to be reduced to 10 as depicted on the plan.
From what I'm feeling and seeing, I mean, we can take this to finding of fact. I don't really understand what the plan commission did at 20. I don't remember all that, but I do know. But I do know that they changed for a reason and allowed to do that. I'm only one vote and I don't know what it is. But in knowing that, as far as what the intention was for the plan commission to approve that, it's already that way. Can't change it.
Can I make a recommendation after you get a motion? If it varies any from this, could you take your motion and then do your findings of fact? So you have that.
So
agreed.
you claim that the plan commission made this a buildable lot. Correct. Okay, can you build a house on it with no variances?
We could.
Okay.
That's
all I wanted to know.
Let me clarify that. May I clarify that, please? The discussion we just had is that there is a big discrepancy on what the actual setbacks are
We understand that.
on that property. So yes, I would say that we most certainly can and would build a lot with our 10-foot setback, because we don't need a variance from that along South Shore Drive.
We've already heard that.
But if you're building, it's about, you say it's a buildable lot, then you shouldn't need the variance.
All right.
So you.
To build a house, just because you want to build a big house, does it just, that's why you're.
All right, so you want to be clarified on?
I wanted him to finish what he was saying.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You want to repeat it on that, as a board member, you need title here.
I heard.
Okay. All right,
We would actually request to withdraw the application at this point.
you want to withdraw?
The property owner would like us to withdraw the application. So
No more discussion. Do we need a motion to?
No? No, they can
Withdraw
withdraw.
that, withdraw, okay.
thank you.
There are people here that want to talk. They need to be addressed or not.
The folks that wanted to talk on that
On
application.
this application. Now it's been withheld.
That man's trying to.
Oh, yeah, if you want to entertain it, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, before we start, yeah. sounds good.
Hey, just a minute, for me.
Yeah, hold on. It's really unusual to allow this, but we can do.
Okay, you are
Grant Osterban.
BRANDT,
Yes,
OSTERBAAN.
good, you know Marty, so you know how to spell it.
I know, Marty.
And your address is
7201 Ishnala Drive,
7201 what?
Ishnala Drive, ISHNALA.
And where is that?
Palos Heights, Illinois.
Okay.
So I and my wife were interested in this parcel. And we did come to, Chuck and not Chuck, Steve Persky, and asked him, and his recommendation was, yes, you could build a house, but it would be very restricted, small. And I think that's what Eric is going now, or Eric's son's son, whatever he was, but yes, when he asked to split this property, it was so, they would have their own tax, we would have our own tax bill, but there was never really any talk about building a structure there. Okay, although it was possible, but everybody knew that it would be so small, it wouldn't be worth it. So.
Can we
Like
hang on for, I'm sorry, I just lost my connection again. Can you give me just a moment?
Well, anyway, like I said, I'm surprised that, the board is willing to change the rules in the variance. I guess that's what you
There's
do.
been no decision, so.
I know, but
Has been,
you had a good point. You said if you're gonna build a building, you don't need a variance, and I don't think any of us would object to a building there that fits in the property, but this thing is just too big for that small of a property. So anyway, everybody has.
So I've lost our connection,
okay.
so it's. We had another problem, so we're back online now.
We are back online?
Okay.
All right. All right, we're back online. And you would want to speak?
Yeah, hi,
Your name?
my name is Kevin Kelly,
Evan,
790
Ellie,
Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y,
okay,
790 South Shore Drive. And I just want to say, they keep referring to this house as a lakefront house. This is not a lakefront house. Their lakefront would be an asphalt driveway, street. This is a lake access, not a lake.
I hear you very much, yeah.
So
That's what I would, but it's under the ordinances, we have to look and see what the ordinance actually calls for. This is actually a
Non-conforming.
non-conforming lot.
Are we allowed to talk yet?
Yeah, you
Or
can
is he
talk.
gonna stifle me again?
Now,
Can I talk?
with that attitude, I
Can I?
don't
I'm
know.
not, I don't have an attitude.
All right, I want to make sure we're calm and addressing that right way.
Can I please speak?
Yes, you may.
Especially for Andrew, I want to give you some history on this lot.
Russ, could you please identify yourself for the record?
Russ Mason, 530 Forest Place, Culver. Many years ago, back in 1991, somewhere in that area, I have to go get my paperwork, look it up. The owner of the whole area there, General Tangy, approached the planning commission to subdivide the property. The planning commission rejected that, said, you can't do that. Went to court. We lost. And all that property got divided like you see it there. You don't see the rest of it, but there's 4 or 5 lots. So all that was created. The only thing that's different is that to the west, that was all one piece of property. Now, you said in 2020 or something, they came and asked for that to be split. I don't know about that, but before that, that whole section still accessed the lake. So the planning commission lost the split out. So those lots existed the way that you see them because they lost it in court.
That would be these lots to the east that you're referring to.
Yeah, they all got created as part of Tangy's planned subdivision, which the planning commission, I hope you remember that, we were totally against that.
In 2022.
No. Way back in 1999, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I started on the board.
I have all the paperwork, I just didn't bring it with me.
Yeah, I started on the board in either 99 or 2000, but yeah, I think it was February of.
I do have the paperwork and what happened was in 1990, Tangy bought that property along with Burns and Osterbond. And from Jack Campbell's estate. And that property, they drew up an understanding that they had surveyed and divided into 3 parcels. You see 2 of them, the other one runs along the east side of what you see there. Okay, and Tangy, each of the 3 parties were granted exclusive access to their parcel. Okay, but they were owners together in it. Okay, Tangy had a half interest, Burns had a quarter, Osterbond had a quarter. Okay, in 2006, Tangy wanted to sell his piece, but he couldn't because it was 1 parcel. And that's when he sued to have it divided. And I agree, I don't know how it happened, but the judge allowed him to take his piece separately and he sold it. Again, that's not a buildable lot that he did. Okay, and nobody's asking to build it. And the judge said these other 2 remaining parcels would be the Burns Osterbond parcel. And as somebody else stated, in I think it was in 2021, Burns came in and had it replatted. He had it replatted for separate tax bills. Okay, but originally that was 1 big lot, those 2 and the other piece, and that was one of the lots from Campbell's estate.
And again, you are?
Greg Osterbond.
Let's go.
All right. I got one gonna talk, so we'll hear it out. We're gonna, it's already been withdrawn, but we'll hear it out one more time.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
What he says is all true, except that Tangy,
I can't hear you.
gave us,
his voice and.
he gave us a.
Could you have somebody speak for him then? I can't understand her.
Close to them.
You can, if you walk up here,
Here's what we report for the speaker is, you get closer to that.
Okay, 16:05, South Shore Drive.
just walk over in front of the secretary. If you would.
I think we can pick him up.
If I pick you up. Yeah. Don't have to.
Tangy granted us, Mike, and subject to agreement with the judge up in Plymouth, as this gentleman says, gave us all easements over the property. So we have an easement right now over the property that we're talking about today.
We're in that little subdivision on South,
Up above, right.
Right,
we're,
above it?
we're in Taney's house actually.
Right.
Okay.
And there's other houses that share
Okay.
that property.
So you got,
So we're concerned because we don't want a house built that is gonna block our access or our view. I mean,
If I can ask, are you saying that this property that's in question today, you have an easement over this?
Yes,
Is that recorded with the county?
yes.
Yeah.
I can read it next time if you like.
An easement.
So
Where would that easement be?
adjoining, it's basically fun, it's basically fun. Is what it is.
It was made, okay.
Right,
Right.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It was back before the farm.
The only way we know that for sure is to have, go up to the recorder's office and see if that is. an
Yeah,
easement there.
we do need that before we even move ahead.
I mean, word of mouth.
Right, you need that.
Interrupted.
Go ahead. I think. he's done.
So the court order that I've seen from 2006
Right.
said that, that the Osterbond and Burns parcel, that the parcel separated out the Tangy shall be free of any restrictions imposed by the mutual understanding and agreement. So that was the agreement that you guys had back in the early 90s for everybody to share access.
Right,
So it was my understanding that the Tangy property has its own access, and then the Burns and Osterbond one was freed from all the other rules that were under that understanding. But then just recently, there was a quitclaim deed.
No, that order says, no, that it's called mutual understanding. That still applied to the Burns and Osterbond parcels. It did not apply to the Tangy
Tangy
parcel.
parcel, right? Yeah.
So it's always applied to the Burns and Osterbond parcel. And for years, we owned it jointly. It was
Is this
kept
something that needs to be resolved?
But then just
Yeah.
recently, there was a
Needs to go on.
replat.
and then a quitclaim
That's a different.
I might have.
that only retains to you the
People have their
part
hands
along.
on there. and we got rid of it.
Other.
Yeah. I think we got a point, I've got a point of where. Sorry. I'm gonna watch that.
All right. This has been, withdrawn.
Minutes, everybody.
Yeah, cultural and legal history.
Information's been withdrawn, and we're gonna go ahead and next meeting, we're gonna get over all the issues that you guys are coming up with, whatever. Please get them together and bring them back when they bring theirs back. Would you please?
Okay.
Absolutely. And believe me, we've heard everything that you said. Maybe not understood everything you said, but we will, when they come back, we'll see if they're gonna come back with smaller houses. Huh?
You think they'll come back with smaller now?
It don't bother me if they don't get ready. All right.
We need a motion to close something.
Public hearing was closed, so
We're gonna move on here. We got old business or new business. Any of that?
I have some,
Okay.
I guess we'll call it new business.
I'm old first.
We had, we talked about whether or not we still include the virtual teams.
Oh, that's on you.
Not required. Right, something that was implemented, I'm sure, during COVID, but it is not something that we are required to do. I would say that This seems to give us more headaches than helps. It seems that,
That's where you were at.
if people did it in the petitions for the monthly meeting, then they should be.
Okay. I'm gonna, I also have that on my list of things to address here. Unbeknownst to
Are you
you.
done with your part? Okay, good.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
On my perspective, for me to do the minutes, I have to refer back to the YouTube video.
It'll still be recorded.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, so I just want to make sure from that perspective that I can still do that, because the last meeting minutes, it took me 6 hours of viewing the YouTube video, which was almost 3 hours in itself to put together those minutes. Secondly, someone did call me that lives on South Shore Drive and is member also of the Southwest Conservancy District, of which I'm a member of, and he expressed his support for teams. And I wanted to also bring up what was ultimately decided because of COVID and doing online meetings. So I got to give you a little background information on Southwest. Southwest meets 4 times a year, once each quarter. And we had some issues with being able to get together. Ultimately, the state or local or somebody did a statute that said you can use online stuff for meetings, but each individual member must attend in person at least once a year. Okay?
Can't once a year.
Okay, they can attend the other 3 via, we use, what's the other one?
Zoom.
Yeah, we use Zoom, okay? All right, so the state has come down and said, yeah, you can do online meetings and you can use the participants that are online present for purposes of creating a quota and can vote on things. So I don't know if that would interfere with that or not, because
I think I can help with that. Start with the minimum requirement is that we record the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we make that public within a certain amount of time.
okay,
The next thing is we can make the meeting so people can be online and watch it, but not participate.
okay,
And then there's this, what we have right now where people can be online and participate.
We're not utilizing it when one of us are not able. We're not
Okay.
using it to hit that.
to just to further, I believe we've had 2 instances in my term of being on this board where the petitioner has appeared online to request their variance and explain their variance.
Right.
So I would want to make sure that that still gets preserved. So, yeah, it's gonna be. So I probably defer to Sean. I know if it's one of you board members that wants to be on here, you have to be visible to everybody and be heard. We don't have to hear anything from anybody in the public.
Right.
If they,
Okay.
and the thought being, if this case is valuable to them, they'll actually be here or have a representative here for that.
Okay.
And I feel that anytime there's a variance needed, they would be.
I just remember that one down
Down
south that she came to us twice. And we, first time we told her she needed to make her garage a little smaller and she was online.
I mean, I understand,
And-
but I don't think.
Okay.
This community has people that are not here 12 months out of the year. They're just as interested in what goes on. It's just a matter of the fact that they have a summer home. If they want to get on and support or go against one of the participants, you got to give them that opportunity. I don't know a downside to stop doing this unless you think there's technical problems. If there's technical problems, let's ask the council to hire an expert to come in and fix it for us, so it's good and stable.
I appreciate that, but that's already been addressed.
I can tell you the
My
count.
point is that you gotta keep that interaction, you gotta allow people online to object or support a pending partition, just as if they were here. Just because they can't be here physically doesn't mean they should be excluded from that.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have anything?
We already talked about this
Okay.
before,
Cause I mean,
Right.
all right.
right, Steve? It's the same conversation we had.
It was the plan commission had. the
With
same
the same
conversation.
plan.
Right.
And what I'm gonna say, I understand as far as the planning commission, I mean, you've got a lot more things going on as far as between TRC and planning commission. And just like this right here, as far as people being online and knowing what that's going, it means a lot. When it comes to a BZA subject, whatever, it's a particular project. Now, if it has impact with their property and they know it, whatever, them being online, they can give their opinion, whatever, and we can hear it. Right?
Well, Same
If
as
we
they can
let
do, but same as they can do via
Same as
a
they can do
letter.
right now, but the same as they can do with the letter. And I don't feel that, I mean, there's been times that it is being repeated from everybody online where it's the point that it's hard to stop somebody from repeating what somebody else said.
Well, you can just tell them that
I know, I can
you're
do that.
repeating it.
And
We've
we can
already
still
heard.
have the meeting lasting forever, but it's not even required though.
Along those same lines.
Yeah.
You change the format now, so the only time someone can talk about the petition that's being granted is during a public hearing.
Right.
But there's no discussion, like, there was all kinds of information I could have provided to you guys while you were talking about this. But he shut me off because he said, well, we had this is a public hearing, you can't talk unless it's a public hearing. Well, that item didn't even come up during the public hearing. So why don't you allow discussion? Why did you create such a boondoggle of having public hearings? We never had them before. Doesn't require by law.
No.
May I refer to our
Is it
attorney to
required
answer
by
that?
law to have a public hearing?
It is, yeah, but I mean, however you conduct it is, I mean, it can turn into a goat rodeo if you don't, cut people
Well,
off at
he's
some
the chairman,
point.
he can
But,
control it.
yeah, I think if,
Actually, even as a chairman, it's hard to control.
yeah.
We had it over whatever it was at school. And it was so full. And we got out of that meeting at 10:00, 10:30 at night.
Did
And there was
everybody
no
get,
resolution because it was hearing every single one repeated over and over and over.
In the case where
And they were
everybody doesn't
given
get to
3
speak.
minutes, so you couldn't
you
cut them
table
off
it.
before that 3 minutes.
as soon as they start saying the same thing, can't you say, we've already heard this?
I don't know if it would be legally that I could stop somebody else from speaking when
I
somebody.
would suggest you ask our attorney.
Yeah, I think if you set up some kind of system where everybody gets 3 minutes and somebody is a interested party and they want to repeat the same thing, I don't think you can shut them down, but I mean, you can encourage people at the beginning, like,
Right, and I
you
have.
got a big crowd,
And
like.
actually that, in that
Yeah.
particular meeting, it was said,
They want to say the same thing.
they want to say the same thing. I guess it more said, more means more.
But to my point,
Okay, what is your point? I'm sorry.
my point was during the public hearing.
Yeah.
Things were talked in generalities, and then you close the public hearing.
Because nobody else wanted to say anything.
I couldn't say anything because it wasn't pertinent at the time.
Well,
It
I would
wasn't,
say,
it wasn't pertinent.
Russ, had they not withdrawn and there was more conversation to be had, we could have opened another public hearing.
All right, were you gonna give information? Were you wanting to answer a question to somebody else that had that question?
When you guys were discussing things, I had some input that would have helped you in your discussions. I mean, I was building commissioner for 10 years. I was involved in a lot of this stuff. I have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And Steve doesn't ever take advantage of that, but I have a lot of knowledge.
I do
Well-
too, but I know situations like this. never
If
came
you'd
up.
like to have that discussion after the meeting, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate right now.
That was the reason why I said there were people
Cool.
that had wanted to raise their hand. And we couldn't allow them because we closed the public hearing.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
So
and then when it got
we can open
withdrawn,
up many
these
public
people
hearings
were
as
still
we
raising their hands.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
is there any other?
I mean,
Yeah, I got one more thing.
You can, I think, like the official public hearing that you advertise, I mean, it says it starts at, this time and you're gonna have it, but I think after you closed it. If you want to indulge somebody for your own purposes to, allow somebody to talk or get more information, you're certainly welcome to do that. But
I mean, yeah, we don't normally have a public hearing in BZA. This is the first time we've had a public hearing that I know of.
90% of the cases that
We have hearings and they're public. This was more formalized than
Okay.
normal by opening and closing the
okay,
public hearing. Which the intent is to give everybody their 3 minutes to
Yeah.
speak, so we're not here for hours
Sure.
on unending hours.
Yeah.
Which is a common practice from what I've seen
yeah.
in most meetings, that's
And
how they're
oftentimes,
done.
do you guys have like your own procedural rules that lay that out, or have you ever adopted anything like that?
We're trying
The,
to.
the
Okay.
short answer is no,
Okay.
we
Yeah,
need
that-
help with that.
Yeah, most of the,
Honestly, yeah, I'll interrupt you for a
Yeah.
minute, just because to me, as far as in BZA, people from neighboring homes, stuff like that, have something to say. I mean, I think it's my job. I can only speak for myself, but to try and understand those concerns as far as it might be. And I know if it takes a little longer, I don't like being up till 10 o'clock at night in a meeting. But I've never let it use an excuse to not let people talk. Now, in a public hearing, when it comes to, just like here, I mean, if it's, is it the actual way to have to do it? When you have a public hearing, I mean, you can't do anything other than have a public hearing until you close it, and nobody can speak? Or can you actually just go on with like we always have before? Let people speak when they want to, and if they repeat it, you can just
I
say,
think,
thank you, we've already heard that.
I think what we need to do is formalize how
Yeah,
we're going to run it. And then over the course of time, that expectation will be understood. I think that it'll be a little muddy for the first few months that we're doing it, but
I mean, I know as far as what we're required, we can do it and hold it to a certain time by doing this right here to stopping everything else.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're getting actual information by doing
Well,
every bit of information. We might be getting enough to satisfy what decisions might have already made, but we're not getting the information that might change that much. And that's where I'm standing at. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't want a situation like that to come up. I mean, the court came in and settled it, but I didn't want that. But at that time, I mean, we had different building commissioner, we had different members, stuff like that. When you talk about the 2021, 22, we changed members. Changed people that voted one way or the other.
I'd just like to add that, the meeting really needs to focus on the facts. There's so much extra discussion in these meetings. It is such a waste of time. We need to focus strictly on the facts. This board should never recommend alternatives to
I
anybody
don't
who's
like to
building.
recommend alternatives. I do not either.
This board
I
just needs to hear the facts and then move on, and hearing, everybody gets the exact same amount of time to talk. Usually that's people that are for or against it. As Sean said, after you close that, if you have specific questions for a person, you can ask. I just heard that from Sean. And direct it to that person, but you can't let it open up to everybody in the public start talking again. Or else you
You
defeat
allow
the whole
that.
purpose.
If you're allowing that person, now you got, just like you said, if you're
Well, at
allowing
least
that, you're gonna have to open up public hearing again. But if you can talk and your friend, and
I
this
think-
person has a question for that person, how are you gonna stop that?
the point of the public hearing is
Why would you?
to get everybody's input. right?
I'd like, if we could hear, but his comment.
so I don't think that it's a good idea to develop some procedures and then stick to them, but you can vary from them if you feel like you need to elicit some more information from people. I think you just get into a sticky problem if it's like, I'm gonna let this one guy talk for 20 minutes afterwards and then shut down these other people. I mean, that could be an issue, but I think it would be good to set a procedure like this and have it, but then allow yourself a little bit of flexibility. But there's people that, Culver population, I think there's a lot of folks here who are, successful people, wealthy people, retired people have a lot of time and they're used to getting their way and they want to be heard. And I think so you have a lot of people that are going to want to not stick within the rules of the 3 minutes. And sometimes you might want to indulge that a little bit, but to the extent Steve's right, that you can put some parameters on it and keep the
Right.
focus and move these things along, I think that's a good idea.
So back to my original point, should we have teams meetings?
Right.
Let's just set a few boundaries. I mean,
I
we
would
see what we're trying.
interactive teams meeting.
Yeah, interact. I mean, we're required to record it. And I think that we can even live stream them, but like, are we getting benefit? Does it make your life more difficult trying to go back and figure out everybody that's speaking online?
Yes, it does. I have to be able to, I mean, I know I misspelled at least one name, and I know I didn't get at least one address right. And yes, I do rely heavily on those. I could not put the minutes together sitting here trying to put it in,
I mean,
into a document, nor could I do it
Do we
from
have
writing.
specific for each person?
Now, your minutes could be a lot less detailed. I mean, I think it's particularly when we have a recording. I mean, if you just list I think getting the person's name and address is appropriate, but then you could just generalize
Well, I'll tell you why I've been that way.
Mhm.
Has to do with the lawsuits that went back and forth regarding the construction of 415 and getting subpoenaed and having to attach 40 some odd letters to the minutes
Sure.
and go back and read them and verify them because of the lawsuit.
But the good thing is though now, like the planning commission was just sued and we've got the YouTube recordings and we send them out to a transcriptionist and they type up exactly everything that was said. And so, I mean, that there's an expense to that, but for the, 1 in 100 cases that results in litigation, maybe you could save yourself a little bit of work on just the mundane day-to-day stuff.
But I'm person getting paid.
I'm not saying that Teams isn't a tool that we should use. I'm saying that right now, until the technological infrastructure is improved and it becomes a reliable source, and we have this meeting structure put in place, like, we have a time for the public here to speak, and then we have time for online to speak, where we're getting the names and addresses recorded while they're speaking. So like, I'm not saying it's not a tool we should use. I'm just saying right now, I don't think that the ROI, if you will, is beneficial for us.
What I'd like to say on that part, like you're saying, I would like to see, we know what cases are coming up. We know what could be extreme. I use that word. And it wouldn't be that you couldn't advertise that you're gonna have teams, whatever, for that session. Because you're not required to have it, but it doesn't say you can't have it at any time that you feel like it's needed. Why wouldn't that be? I mean, it wouldn't.
May I?
Yeah.
From a town manager standpoint, what you have to do is create habits. What happens is when you start picking and choosing that way, and you'll be blamed for not informing the public well enough. And why didn't you have it on this one? And you had it on this one. The inconsistencies are going to create issues for people and complaints. And I go back to what Russ said, a good member of our constituency watches from home. And this is what they do. And so just having that predictability, I would probably err on the side of this being consistent, to be honest with you, Barry.
I understand that too.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up.
You're welcome.
I can see we're recording a lot of that as far as having the teams. I understand too, but it's not always really necessary either.
Just good.
Two people to get online, because they might get up having their lunch or whatever.
So what do you want to do?
Any more old business?
Yes,
So what do you want to do?
Are we addressing the team still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that Andrew needs to understand they are working on refining that system. Because we had this exact same conversation 2 nights ago in the planning commission. And then can you chime in, please, and say what you're working on?
With me?
Yeah, part of the technology.
All the technology side of what we're trying to do with the teams and all that, with your gal you brought, remember?
Well, the gal, I didn't bring her.
She came.
She magically appeared.
Well, whatever. She came out of your
What
office.
I'm working on
Hey,
is.
she came out of your office, didn't she?
So we're still having a meeting
We're
being
still recording
recorded.
the meeting.
And I'll chime in. I said, I get it. and I'm not being nasty. It comes and goes in waves, right? And when we have a problem, everybody gets their panties in a bunch, and when we don't, excuse me for the recording, then we don't, and we forget about it. And it's my fault. I let the river flow. I'll own it. I want microphone speakers and a reliable camera. I don't want him sitting at the desk fiddling with the system that's not working. All these issues are recorded, not being nasty. I need to get off my duff, get something done.
Thank you.
Message heard, and that's on me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
That's
sir.
what I wanted to hear.
I know you did, sweetheart. I'm
About it.
getting out.
Guy, Bear.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we doing now?
You're going to the next meeting?
No, I still have one more thing for business. I'm sorry. Some time ago, we heard an issue on a property on State Road 17 and 10 across from the hardware store and Frida's with a guy that was storing, servicing pontoon boats, whatever. Okay, I have seen in the last week or 2 weeks, I've seen pieces of boats, etc. out in the driveway.
I'll address that.
And then also that man has a house on Lakeshore Drive. And he's had a couple of pontoons parked on a trailer attached to his car, parked on the street. And it's pretty wide. And you have to go way over the yellow line. I mean, almost cars has to go over.
The police have to.
And anyhow, since we did have a hearing on this, and I think some action was taken, he's back at it again. And I just wanted to inform the BZA about that.
I will address that in the next, and I can tell you the next step is we'll get a letter and I'll start getting fined.
Okay,
Okay,
Good.
that's all I have.
okay. Next meeting at 6:30 p.m. Thursday, April 17th. And other than that, we have no other. Is there something that anybody want to add? All right, entertain motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, first and
Hey, have
second.
fun in Florida with the kids, man.
And,
I'm sure you will.
Do we have a second?
I'm actually going to.
Do we have a second?
Yes, I second it.
Oh, second.
Everybody in
Well,
favor?
who seconded, me or you?
Aye. You do.
Aye. Aye.
So we're adjourned?
yeah.
Adjourn.